Hi, I'm Andrew Wilson, and in this video I'm going to do a full playthrough video, two-player, of my game Wild Power. So in a previous video I did a kind of a walkthrough how to play type of video, and now I'm just going to do a full game playing both sides. I'll still explain kind of hopefully what's going on. Hopefully you can follow along if you didn't watch that video, but it's going to be a little bit less in depth, and I'm just going to try to play through it and as fast as possible, basically. So the first player, I think that will be the player on the right, is going to draft one of these three units. So there's a stack of green cards, orange cards, and purple cards, each composed of 6 units. And as the first player, all we can really do is select one of them to put into play. And they're going to have 4 positions. We're going to be kind of facing this way. So this way, kind of head to head. And so the front row here is going to be the melee positions, and then the back row will be the ranged positions. So we just have to decide which one we want to start with. And you know what? Let's start with this Ranger Dryad. So we're going to put her into the ranged position. And she says when Ranger Dryad joins, create a beast pet in melee. So we will take one of these beast pet tokens and put it up in the front row in melee. And the pets do not consume one of the actual melee positions. It's just going to be like in melee. But that's all we can do as the first player. So the second player will take their turn. Now on your turn, you roll an action die for each unit your opponent has. And it doesn't count the pets, but that's why the first player didn't get to do anything except for recruit. The second player is going to get to roll one of these 4 action dice. And in addition to recruiting, they'll be able to perform a purple action. And a purple action can be to channel a purple power or to draw a purple card. And since they don't have any cards in hand, they won't be able to channel, but they can, so they're going to draw. So we'll reveal the next card off the green stack, and then let the second player choose which of these 3 units they would like to recruit, or they can draw first if they like. For example, if they want to draw this Ether Unicorn, they could then see what comes out if they wanted to recruit that instead. So Ether Unicorn says allies use purple powers as though they were empowered, which is nice. So that might be that they want this in play with purple cards in hand. That's a reasonable option. And for the sake of actually being faster than I am strategic, I think I'm just going to go ahead and do that and put the unicorn into the ranged position and reveal the next card. And sure, draw that. So you're going to use their purple action to draw this and add it to their hand. And that will conclude the second player's turn, and then the first player will roll 1 action die for each unit their opponent has, which is 1. And they're going to be able to perform a green power this turn, or a green action rather. So they can either draw a green card or channel a green power. Again, since they have no cards in hand, they won't be able to channel a green power, so they have to draw a green card after recruiting. So in order to do kind of a pet focus, I think they might want this wild caller in their hand. So they'll use this action to draw, see what comes out in case they want to recruit it. And you know what? I think they will recruit the green stalk. It's a pretty strong card. And go ahead and put that into their front row. So the green stalk says that when it joins, empower it twice, and each time it takes any amount of damage, it loses 1 empower. So we're going to take 2 of these empower status condition cards and add it here. And that basically means if the green stalk uses any powers, it will do so in a more powerful way. And we'll cover how that works when it comes up. And so now this player 1 has drawn and recruited. So that's all they can do, except for the pets, every turn get to perform their own innate power, which is a very basic attack. It is a melee, but since there are no melee units, we can go through to the back row, to the ranged. So the beast is going to use its attack against Ether Unicorn, and the pet uses a d4. So we're going to roll a d4. Oops. And we got a 4. So it says that for every multiple of 2, deal 1 damage. So 2x deal 1 damage means for every multiple of 2, deal 1 damage. 2 goes into 4 twice. So we're going to do 2 damage to the Ether Unicorn. So we'll take 2 of these damage cards and go ahead and put that onto the unicorn. And the unicorn only has 4 health, so it's a pretty fast-paced type of combat. and we'll go back to the second player's turn. Now, player 1 has 2 units, so player 2 gets 2 action dice. So we drew a purple action and a wild power action. So that means basically they can do anything they want with this. They can draw any card or channel any card, or even let a unit perform its innate power. If they wanted to, they could use have the unicorn use Pure Beam, or recruit one of these and then have it do its action. They also have Kid Wiz in their hand, which has a power that could be channeled. So it's worth considering that each unit can only act once on your turn. So perhaps they would use their normal recruit, use the wild power to let that unit use its own power, and then use the purple action to maybe let the Ether Unicorn channel this power. So I think that's not a bad idea. And the Angry Armor card is pretty strong. So let's go ahead and recruit that into melee, protect the unicorn a little bit. That'll be the recruit for the turn. We'll use the wild power to let Angry Armor channel its own ability, channel its innate power. So it's going to use Brutal Smash. And since Brutal Smash is printed on an orange card, it counts as an orange power. And so Angry Armor performing an orange power uses its orange stat, which is a D8. So we're going to roll a D8 for a total of 8. Wow, that's very good. And for every multiple of 1.5, it deals 1 damage. Now most of the time, almost all the powers, except for this one, use full numbers or don't deal with half numbers. This is the one exception where we have to multiply by 1.5 a few times. So 1.5, 3, 4.5, 7. After that would be 8.5, so 8.5 is more than 8. So 1.5 goes into 8 4 times. So we're going to do the effect 4 times, which is deal 1 damage. And this one attack is actually going to do 4 damage to the green stalk. Now, fortunately for the green stalk, it has 5 health, so it will not be destroyed from that. But we'll go ahead and put those damage on here. 4 damage. And since it took any amount of damage, it loses one of its empowers. So that was the recruit and the wild power, and then we'll have Ether Unicorn act and channel Kid Wiz's Wand Defy power, which is a ranged multi. Multi means you don't have to select your target ahead of time. It's just for each time you get a multiple, you'll get to decide how to use it. We're going to use that. And since Wand Defy is printed on a purple unit, it counts as a purple power. And so Ether Unicorn performing that power is going to use its purple stat, which is a D12. So we're going to roll a D12, and we got a 3. So a 3, unfortunately, doesn't have any multiples of 5 in it, and it is not at least 8. So this will do nothing in this case. So this card is placed into the player's kind of personal discard pile, and they can get that back later in the game potentially, but for now it won't be usable. And we go back to player 1, who then will get to roll 2 action dice. So we got 2 draw symbols, which means they can draw from any deck they want, but they won't be able to use any powers this turn, unfortunately for them. So the pet does get to act, so we'll go ahead and let it attack. It's going to attack whatever's kind of in melee, so it's going to attack the Angry Armor. Got a 1, so 1 doesn't have a multiple of 2 in it, so it's not going to do any damage. We will recruit as well, so we're going to recruit once and draw twice, so it's just a matter of where we would like to pull these cards from. Oh, I made a mistake actually. So I'm going to retcon that D4 roll, and I'm going to reuse the recruit to get Master Beast. So we have a lot of primal cards out actually already. We've got 4 out of 6 primal cards on this side of the table. So we recruit the Master Beast, and it says your pets use powers as though they were empowered twice. So that beast attack actually, instead of a 4, it should have been attacking with an 8. Because empower means increase the die size that you would use. So instead of a D4, it would use a D6 for being empowered, and since it's empowered twice, it's going to use a D8. So it's actually going to attack the Angry Armor with a D8, and it got a 4, which is going to be 2 damage to the armor. So much better result for them. And then draw 2 cards. So do we want to just do all primal? We should diversify a little bit, I think. Let's go ahead and pick up this Marshal card. So we might just want to go on a 1 second color rather than trying to go for all 3 colors at this point. So just pick up those cards and have some more options in hand and go ahead and end the turn. So player 2 will roll 3 action dice. Got a green and 2, the symbol that means to channel an innate power. So 2 of player 2's units will be able to use their own printed power. And then they're going to be able to do a green action, which is going to be to, in this case, draw a green card because they don't have any green cards in hand. So the Leaf Spirit, do they want to, basically they're going to either have to draw this, or if they really don't want to draw it, then they need to recruit it first. I think they actually do want to recruit this, so they're going to recruit this to the back row, the ranged position, reveal the next card. Yeah, they'll go ahead and use the green draw to draw that card, and then they'll use 2 of their units' innate abilities. I think it makes sense to attack with the Angry Armor again. So we'll do that. We'll go ahead and we'll attack the green stock again because it already has 3 damage. So if we can just do 2 more, it will be taken out. So we'll use one of these to do that. The orange stat again is a D8. And 1.5 goes into 4 2 times. So it's going to do 2 damage to the green stock. And that's enough to take it out. So what happens when a unit is defeated is it's moved to the opponent's kind of victory pile, and when you have 4 cards in your victory pile, you win the game. So player 2 is 1/4 of the way toward winning. And then the Ether Unicorn will use the other opportunity to use an innate power, to use Pure Beam, which is ward an ally, and then 3x deal damage. So it's a purple card, so it's going to use purple stat, which is a D12. We'll ward an ally first. We'll go ahead and ward the armor. That basically means the next time it would be affected by an player 1's effect or attack, that will be ignored and the ward will come off. So we'll roll the D12, and we're going to be attacking. So it is a ranged attack, so they can attack any of these targets they want. But I think they'll attack they'll attack the Master Beast. So it'll be easier to finish off since it's in the front row. And with 12, wow. So that's 3x 12, that's 4. So 4 damage to the Master Beast. Wow, if they had picked the Ranger Dryad, it would have been a one-shot, but there we go. And that concludes player 2's turn. So we go back to player 1 against 3 units. They get 3 action dice. And they got 2 orange symbols and a wild power. So it's a good thing they drew a bunch of orange cards last turn because they're now going to get to use them potentially. Master Beast does have a reasonable orange stat, so that's good. So it's worth noting that the first effect against Angry Armor is going to be ignored from the ward. So they might want to open with something a little bit weaker, which would be the Ranger Dryad's Volley. Could potentially pop that ward and still do some damage to other units. So I think they'll go ahead and use the Wild Power to channel Ranger Dryad's ability. It's a green power, so you can use their green stat, which is a D8, and hope for at least a 2. So 5 has 2 multiples of 2 in it, so they'll do 1 damage here, and go ahead and do 1 damage to the Unicorn. And that will pop the ward. And then with 2, a recruit, and 2 actions left. So I think they want to recruit the Charmbringer, someone in the front row to be able to perform some orange powers. He says when he joins, he empowers his allies. So we actually should have probably done that first to improve the Ranger Dryad's attack, but it's okay. Got what we needed. So these are both empowered now. And then we've got 2 orange actions, so we can have Charmbringer perform 1 from our hand, and the Master Beast can perform the other one. So we're going to have Charmbringer use Hammer Queen's Royal Swing against Angry Armor. His orange stat is a D10, so we'll roll D10. With a 6, that has 2 multiples of 3 in it, so we're going to deal 4 damage, which is enough to take out the Angry Armor. And we did get a 6+, so we would stun him too, but he's going to be off the table, so we won't worry about that. And we'll put that in our victory pile over here. And this card becomes face up in our kind of personal discard. And then Master Beast will perform Bravo Elite's Inspiring Sword against the Aether Unicorn and see if we can finish that off. So the Master Beast's orange stat is a D8. So we'll roll the D8. Wow, a lot of max rolls in this game, unlike my previous video for the game in which I rolled almost all misses. So this is better. The D8, 2 goes into it 4 times, so we're going to do 4 damage, and 3 goes into it twice, so Master Beast actually gets to heal for 2, and only has 2 damage on it now. It's pretty good. So we'll join the Hammer Queen, and the Aether Unicorn is defeated. And now we're half the way to victory for player 1. We go over to player 2, and they'll get to roll 3 action dice because their opponent has 3 units in play. We got 2 draws and an innate power. And let's check our hand, which is just this 1 card. Not a lot out. We will get to draw a couple cards here. Recruit once. Oh, actually, I made a mistake. Where Master Beast should have rolled a D10 rather than a D8, but I'm not going to wreck on that just because of the Empower. But that's okay. So the big primal or big purple stack here, the orange stack is pretty small, and the green cards are gone. The Bone Guy has a lot of potential, so I think they will recruit Bone Guy. We'll go ahead and draw this card and this card. We'll take the last orange card just away from the opponent for no other reason. And oh, actually I forgot, when you draw, you do have the option of drawing from your own discard pile. So you can draw from there. In addition, if your hand is empty and your discard pile has at least 3 cards in it, you just get them all back right away. So you kind of want to keep a smaller hand for the purpose of doing that. So I think, you know what? I will fix that. I'm going to put back this Vexing Fairy and have their second draw be the Kid Wiz from their own discard pile, which means now they have the tight small hand of 3 cards. And if they ever play them all, then they can pick them back all back up. And we'll use the innate power icon to have Bone Guy attack, and it is a ranged multi, so we don't have to declare ahead of time. His orange stat is a D12, and with a 7, that has 1 multiple of 4 only, unfortunately. So the effect is to deal 1 damage, wound, and stun. And I think we will... Do we want to split the damage, or do we want to really start focus on the Master Beast? Or we could even go full on ranged into the back row here. I will focus on the back row. We'll assign 1 damage to the Ranger Dryad, and wound and stun. So stun means I'm going to have to spend any die to remove that stun on my turn. And the wound means in the future, if Ranger Dryad takes any damage, she'll take an extra damage. So back to player 1. Actually, I've forgotten this beast for a couple turns. That's unfortunate, but we're only going to roll 2 action dice, so 2 units. We rolled 2 orange symbols, which is not terrible. Well, it's a little bit awkward because we can't use both. I'd have to use one to remove the stun anyway, but I might just leave the stun. Now, the way recruiting works is that you have to recruit once every turn until you've done it 4 times. And since we have 3 in play and 1 in the enemy victory pile, we know that we've recruited 4 times this game, so we don't have to recruit again. But there's not a big downside to doing so. We could also recruit from our hand, but I don't know that that is ideal either. So we may as well recruit the Vexing Fairy. She actually has a pretty strong ability, which is that we get 1 reroll each turn, and that can be any of our dice. So I guess we could even reroll 1 of these, but I think I've settled for accepting that. Actually, another downside of recruiting is we give our opponent another action. But the reroll is pretty good, so let's hope we don't regret it. I would use 1 of them to draw. I'm going to go ahead and draw the Bravo Elite, and then I'm going to use the other one to have Beastmaster channel the Bravo Elite's Inspiring Sword. And the orange stat is a D8, but since it's empowered, we're going to roll a D10. And of course, we're targeting the Bone Guy because he's in melee. And with a 5, that has 2 multiples of 2, so we're going to do 2 damage. And with the 1 multiple of 3, we get to heal 1. Alright, and that's it for player 1's turn, so we'll go back to player 2, who will get to roll all 4 action dice. Alright, so we got a green action, an orange action, an innate power, and a wild power. And I still forgot my beast. I'm actually going to resolve that now. We still have the Master Beast in play, so we get to roll as a D8 before we get too deep. So that's 2 more damage to Bone Guy, and actually that will finish him off. So player 1 is dominating. Player 2 can recruit. They can recruit the Beetle Boy, or they can recruit from hand. Theoretically, they could even use the wild power to draw and then recruit whatever next, but I don't know if that's ideal. 4 actions is actually too many. They can't even use that many actions. I think. We'll see how it pans out. So yeah, we'll go ahead and recruit the Beetle Boy. He's got 5 health, and he prevents the first damage he would take each turn. So we'll put him up front, reveal the next card. So we can do basically anything we want. Beetle Boy does have a powerful orange stat, so I think we're gonna give it a shot. We're gonna use Striker's Swift Strike, and he's gonna roll a D8 to attack the Master Beast. We got a 5, which is gonna do 1 damage, and then it says roll an available action die. So we actually had to spend the orange die for that, so we'll roll that die and get another green. Which would be great if only. We can't draw any green cards. We don't have any green cards in our discard pile. We do have a green card in our hand, but its effect is to heal, which doesn't help us. And now Beetle Boy has acted already, so I think the best thing we can do is have Leaf Spirit channel Kid Wiz's Wandify. Her purple stat is only a D6. And we get a 1, which is going to do nothing. So that's 2 cards in our personal discard pile. Our green action dice aren't going to help us, and our innate power isn't going to help us, so our turn ends. And then player 1 is going to roll 2 dice, a purple action and a wild. Not rolling a lot of green. They'd love to do more. Actually, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to have Master Beast use the wild power to do its innate power. Its green stat is 10, but since empowered, it will roll a d12. And we got a 5. And the effect is to create a beast pet in melee. And so we'll make another pet here. And if we got 8+, it would be ready, but actually it should be exhausted, which I forgot on the first turn. It should have started exhausted, but it was the first turn. There were no enemies to attack anyway. So the beast will not attack on its first turn, but we did make another pet, and then we can do 1 purple thing, which, yeah, it's basically just going to be to draw, I suppose. We don't have any purple in our discard to draw, so we'll just draw the Archangel, reveal the last card from the stacks, and pass over to player 2, who will roll 4 action dice. We'll try to make their comeback. So they got 2 green again, but 2 wild, which is great. And then they can recruit. Now you can recruit from your hand, but the Chaos Mage is actually a pretty good one to recruit. So unfortunately, the Great Shell's power is just not helpful to heal with. But since they're not going to do anything else with it anyway, all right, they're going to have Leaf Spirit use her innate power using one of the wild power symbols. Her green is a D10. We got a 4, so she becomes empowered and she gets to empower an ally, which is great. So these are both empowered now. And then we will use green to have Beetle Boy use Great Shell's Heal Wave, which they don't have any damage on them, so that's basically not going to have any effect. Their hand is now empty and they have 3 cards in their discard pile, so they get to pick them all back up. They will then recruit Chaos Mage, who says, when he's recruited, roll 2 available action dice, so they get to roll both of those action dice they used. They got a draw and an innate power, which is nice, although these 2 have already acted, so they're not going to get to do that much else. So Shock Royal, they're going to, and I guess they could have recruited him first before empowering, but no, it's okay. So I think we will go ahead and use the innate power. So yeah, it's all going to be our last action, and we're going to use Shock Royal, and Chaos Mage gets to roll a d10 for this purple action. Got a 3, I needed a 4, preferably an 8. But yeah, that'll do nothing. So back to player 1, who gets to roll 3 action dice now. We have orange, purple, and a draw. So we could pick one of these back up. Beetle Boy prevents the first 1 damage to him each turn, so we have to do 6 damage all in 1 turn, basically. We do have 2 pets available, so let's go ahead and let's start with the pets. They both get to roll d8s to attack. 5 is going to do 2 damage, the 3 is going to do 1, so that's basically 2 damage because the first one's prevented. 2 damage to Beetle Boy, so we just need to do 3 more, and actually we would win the game if we do 3 more. So what's our most efficient damage attack? I think that would be this Bravo Elite's Inspiring Sword, so we will use our draw action to pick it up, and we'll use our orange action to have Master Beast perform it with is empowered, so his orange is a d10. And we get a 3, which is going to do 1 damage and heal 1. So we'll just move this over actually. Still need to do 2 more. And we'll use our purple to have Charmbringer use Archangel's Divine Strike. So his purple stat is only a d6. And we would like to see a 4. So we got a 6, which is at least a 4, so we're going to deal 3 damage and heal 1. 3 damage will finish off Beetle Boy, moving him into our victory pile. That's 4. Player 1 wins. Yeah, player 2 was pretty behind for a while, didn't really have much chance to make a comeback. The more units your opponent has, the more dice you get to roll, but if you don't roll the right symbols, it's not going to help you. Yeah, thanks for watching, and bye.